Today's question is a submission by Chris to the No More Trump page on Quora. Sorry, I keep circling back there, but they have great questions. So let's read on. Chris would like to know, why don't Democrats or the left address or debate individual issues that they disagree with MAGA on? Because just throwing out vitriol against MAGA doesn't seem as if it moves the needle any. No MAGA answers, please. Wants to hear only from the liberals and the left-leaning. So let's read on and see what they have to say. Michael says, just to give one example, last year I saw Farmers for Trump signs. Yes, after what Trump did to farmers during his first term, they were still supporting him. Now I drive down Highway 99 through the San Joaquin Valley and I see no on 50 signs in orchards and farms. Prop 50 is California's effort to neutralize the Texas Republican gerrymandering. Trump dumped irrigation water out of lakes in the Sierra right after he was inaugurated, wasting water needed for crops this summer. Trump has destroyed more export markets in his second term and is trying to remove health care from millions of Americans. And ICE is reducing the number of farm workers. But farmers are still supporting Trump. When people can't even support their own economic interests, they can't be taught or debated. Farmers for Trump makes as much sense as Jews for Hitler, except I don't think that there were any Jews who thought Hitler was a good idea after he'd been in power for several years. Exactly. After that they've already experienced the harm, they're still voting for it. So it just highlights the fact that Democrats and the left-leaning have tried multiple times to talk about the issues and raise awareness for concerns like climate change and women's rights and equal rights for everybody, transgender rights, the environment, workers' rights, wage rights. Like the left is trying, and every time we try to debate on those particular issues, I feel that MAGA and Republicans in general tend to devolve into religious debate. When I try to debate issues, or when I see the left-leaning political side trying to debate real issues, like one-on-one, it always ends up devolving down into a biblical debate or contest. And I'm sorry, but we don't run our government based off of what your religion and your Bible says. We need to be thinking forwardly about all of humanity, not just yourself, your religion, or even your own country. We need to be thinking globally about humanity. That was my 2 cents. So another answer here is, not sure that I qualify as the left, but I'm definitely not MAGA. So you won't get a MAGA answer from me. I routinely debate individual issues with MAGA supporters, both among my friends as well as online here on Quora. I link to supporting documentation such as actual documents from court files and the like. My reward on Quora is usually a stream of insults and accusations of lying. Last month, someone on Quora advocated for my execution merely because I had the temerity to disagree with him. Last night on Quora, a Quoran blamed me for Charlie Kirk's assassination. It's been my experience that Trump supporters have no interest in whether their claims are factually supported. They never reference the proof I produce unless it's to somehow denigrate the source. I've never seen them come up with any proof of their own positions other than the Bible or their religious leanings. That's very true. Susan says, I've tried. Recently, a MAGA troll commented on a Facebook post of mine regarding the big, beautiful bill. And she asked me for proof that it would take food resources from children. So I provided proof from a non-biased site showing that how the bill would affect children in the United States. She said, no, they're only going after the illegals using our government resources. I asked for proof of this claim, and she could not provide anything. Instead, she started attacking others that were commenting on her response and ignoring those who were providing proof and personal experiences with this administration. MAGA can't take the other side pointing out any of their fallacies and their inability to think for themselves. You cannot provide non-biased proof of your claim. Just want to spout Fox News rhetoric, then stay off my page. Agreed, Susan. Sarah says, I am done talking to MAGA. It's a total waste of time. They are people who live in the information age and yet have chosen to believe lies from con men instead of taking the time and putting in the effort to learn actual facts about the real world. I'm willing to talk to people who are busy and just trying to survive and not really paying attention. They're worth having conversations with, and they can be reasoned with. However, MAGA are the adult versions of playground bullies. They want to feel superior to others by hurting them. They're willing to believe lies just to justify their bullying. They are not willing to hear anything that doesn't support their worldview because then they might need to question their own attitudes and behaviors. Talking to them is a waste of breath. Tyler responds with, are you sure Democrats on the left are the ones that are just throwing out vitriol? Really? Being interviewed on the BBC, and he was spouting MAGA propaganda as usual. The interviewer fact-checked him, something that they take very seriously. And his response was that BBC was a despicable organization and that they had no right to fact-check what he was saying, and that by doing so, they were denying him his fundamental right of free speech. Methinks debating with a rabid dog might be easier. Exactly. He thinks that being called out on his lies is the same thing as denying him his free speech. You're allowed to say whatever you want, but when it's we're going to check you on it. We're going to clock you on it, and we're going to call you out on it. As they should, as any actual legitimate or reputable news organization would and should. This response from Old Lady Number Cruncher. A lot of us do try, but it's like beating your head against a wall. I find detailed evidence from unimpeachable sources like the Census Bureau or the St. Louis Fed, and I use relatively simple math to show that the assertions of a MAGA person not only are not reflected in the data, but cannot be true. And most of the time, they just go unread. If it's not a meme, it's assumed to be a lie. If it's grounded in evidence, logic, analysis, it's assumed to be a lie, motivated by some sort of corruption. If it reflects the complexity of real life, it's assumed to be a lie. Anything that cannot be accurately stated in 6 words or less is assumed to be a lie. It gets very, very frustrating. Carl says, the premise of your question is bullshit. Liberals and other non-MAGAs have addressed the important issues head on. For example, 1, there have been hundreds of responses on Quora and elsewhere describing why it's bad for the world, including the US, that Trump is kissing up to Russia. Same with tariffs. There have been hundreds of responses on Quora and elsewhere describing why it's bad for the world, including the US, why the Trump's tariffs are going to sink our economy. 2, there have been hundreds of responses on Quora and elsewhere describing why it's bad for the world, including the US, and why Trump's immigration plan, if you can even call it a plan, is absolutely horrible. There have been hundreds of responses and elsewhere describing why it's bad for the United States for us to even speak about taking over Canada. They are one of our closest allies and friends and always have been. 4, there have been hundreds of responses about why canceling Medicaid is going to kill a lot of people. There's been hundreds of responses about why vaccines are one of the greatest achievements of modern medicine. I could continue on and on and on with other issues, but it's always the same, and it's not just here on Quora. Literally billions of people thoughtfully describing in detail why Trump is wrong, and MAGAs can respond with some of the most illiterate responses like Trump derangement syndrome, that they talk about pronouns like it's a national issue. There have been many well thought out answers, and it says something about you that either you are too stupid or too close minded or both, that you cannot see it and read it from millions of people worldwide that are describing and addressing in detail why Trump is dangerous. It's true. It's like the fact that he even asked the question, why aren't you debating the issues, means that he's had his head in the sand this entire time. We have tried to do nothing other than debate the issues. While the Republican side has been locked up in identity politics and grandstanding and butt kissing and placating to the desires of a wannabe dictator who sucks up to dictators in the real world. It's terrifying and it's horrifying, but MAGA has proven time and time again that it doesn't matter how you debate them, what evidence you bring or what topics you bring or what proof that you show them, they aren't going to hear it. They aren't going to listen to it. They aren't going to respect it. They're not going to value it. They're not going to process it. And so it's gotten to the point where we just need to stop. We're wasting our breath and our energy debating these people. They don't want to hear it and they don't want to be part of the solution. So I think I'm going to leave you with that. Thanks so much. And if you ever want to see me again, make sure you like and subscribe, comment in the comments below. And
remember to comment, like, and subscribe if you ever want to see me again. And as always, have the day you deserve and the rights you voted for all of us to have.